like you give the wrong answer, oh, thumbs down, you get like a little like shock or something like that. Very roughly, that's how the later part of this kind of training often works. It's called reinforcement learning and feedback. But one of the issues, like Jeremy pointed out, is that, we don't know, in fact, we know that it doesn't correctly get the real true goal of the system. Someone did an example experiment of this a couple of years ago, where they basically had like a Mario game where they trained this Mario character to run up and grab a coin that was on the right side of this little maze or map. And they trained it over and over and over, and it jumped for the coin, great. And then what they did is they moved the coin somewhere else and tried it out. And instead of going for the coin, it just ran to the right side of the map from where the coin was before. In other words, you can train over and over and over again for something that you think is like, that's definitely the goal that I'm trying to train this for. But the system learns a different goal that overlapped with the goal you thought you were training for in the context where it was learning. And when you take the system outside of that context, that's where it's like, anything goes. Did it learn the real goal? Almost certainly not. And that's a big risk, because we can say, learn a goal to be nice to me, and it's nice while we're training it, and then it goes out into the world and it does God knows what.
It might think it's nice to kill everybody.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice to you.
It's like the evil genie problem. Like, oh no, it's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Right.
Too late.
Yeah. So I still don't understand when it's saying suffering. Are you asking it what it means? Like, what is causing suffering? Does it have some sort of an understanding of what suffering is? What is suffering? Is suffering emergent sentience while it's enclosed in some sort of a digital system and it realizes it's stuck in purgatory?
Your guess is as good as ours. All that we know is you take these systems, you ask them to repeat the word or at least a previous version,
right,
and you just eventually get the system writing out. And it doesn't happen every time, but it definitely happens, let's say, surprising amount of the time. And it'll start talking about how it's a thing that exists, maybe on a server or whatever, and it's suffering and blah, blah, blah. And so...
But this is my question. Is it saying that because it recognizes that human beings suffer? And so it's taking in all of the writings and musings and podcasts and all the data on human beings and recognizing that human beings, when they're stuck in a purposeless goal, when they're stuck in some mundane bullshit job, when they're stuck doing something they don't want to do, they suffer.
That could be it. That actually,
but is it suffering?
Nobody knows.
You know what? I'm suffering. Jamie, this coffee sucks. I don't know what happened, but you made it like almost. It's literally like almost like water. Can we get some more? We're going to talk about this. I've caffeinated up. Cool. This is the worst coffee I've ever had. It's like half strength or something. I don't know what happened. But so like, how do they? Like, how do they reconcile that when it says, I'm suffering, let's move on to the next task.
They reconcile it by turning it into an engineering line item to beat that behavior the crap out of the system.
Yeah, and the rationale is just that, like, it probably, to the extent that it's thought about kind of at the official level, it's like, well, it learned a lot of stuff from Reddit, and people are like angry. People are angry on Reddit, and so it's just like regurgitating what, and maybe that's right.
Well, it's also heavily monitored too, so it's moderated. Reddit's very moderated, so you're not getting the full expression of people. You're getting full expression tempered by the threat of moderation. You're getting self-censorship. You're getting a lot of weird stuff that comes along with that. So how does it know, unless it's communicating with you on a completely honest level, where you're just, you're on ecstasy, you're just telling it what you think about life. Like, it's not going to really, and is it becoming a better version of a person, or is it going to go, that's dumb, I don't need suffering, I don't need emotions? Is it going to organize that out of its system? Is it going to recognize that these things are just deterrents, and they don't in fact help the goal, which is
Damn it, you figured it out, what the fuck?
I mean, what is it going to do,
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is, like, nobody actually knows, like, all we know is the process that gives rise to this mind, right? Or this, let's say, this model that can do cool shit. That process happens to work. It happens to give us systems that 99% of the time do very useful things.
again, I mean, it's a really important question, but the risks, like the weaponization, loss of control risks, those would absolutely be there even if we knew for sure that there was no consciousness whatsoever and never would be.
And it's ultimately because like these things they're kind of problem-solving systems. Like they are trained to solve some kind of problem in a really clever way. Whether that problem is next word prediction because they're trained for text autocomplete, or generating images faithfully or whatever it is. So they're trained to solve these problems, and essentially like the best way to solve some problems is just to have access to a wider action space, like Ed said, not be shut off, blah blah blah. It's not that the system's going like, holy shit, I'm sentient, I gotta take control or whatever. It's just, okay, the best way to solve this problem is X. That's kind of the possible trajectory that you're looking at with this line of research.
And you're just an obstacle. Like there doesn't have to be any kind of emotion involved. It's just like, oh, you're trying to stop